Hey Asp, it's John, and I'm here at the Activity Group booth with Asp fan Michael.
Yes.
So we got here into the booth and we started talking with him, and he's like, dude, so
Cover your ass.
there it is, right?
Yeah.
So I would first like to ask Michael, as a fan of the page, how do you use what we put out at Active Self Protection?
Well, one, I watch pretty much all the videos to learn. I actually watch the videos on Facebook most of the time,
Yeah.
and then I show my friends, show my family, my wife. By watching the videos, a lot of us here have done a lot of training. We got a lot of ex-military, a lot of ex-law enforcement, but a lot of civilians. I'm a civilian myself, so I can learn, and my wife can learn, see and learn what not to do,
Yeah.
and what to do. So, big fan.
Well, and I'm excited because, okay, you guys know, I talk all the time about if you're gonna carry a firearm, you need to have immediate first aid available. You need to have
Right.
emergency first aid. I keep my individual first aid kit on me all the time. I've got it in my EDC bag that I've got here, and I think the products that you guys have could be very, very helpful. So why don't you describe some of what you guys have that's innovative?
Okay. Well, really what we do is we're representing RevMedics, which is a medical manufacturing company out of Oregon.
Okay.
They're best well known for an XStat device, which is developed with US SOCOM, and that's a first of its kind expanding gauze technology for stopping bleeding. There is a civilian line of products that's available for everybody that we can talk about.
So yeah, so the SOCOM one that you may have seen online, it's like a big tube that you jam in there and that you put in there. That's SOCOM only, that's military only.
Yes.
The FDA won't let us lowly civilians have that one at this
Not-
point.
not
However,
yet, yes.
we do have some other options.
Yes, we do. The thing we want to talk about is a product here called RevMedics X-Gauze. RevMedics X-Gauze is a first of its kind expanding gauze that doesn't have any hemostatic agent on it. It actually expands when it hits blood or exudate on a wound, and it stops the bleeding by pressure, not by a hemostatic agent trying to clot the blood.
So it doesn't have a clotting factor.
Doesn't
It
have a clotting
expands
factor.
and lets the clotting factor in the
Yeah.
blood do its own thing.
I got a couple of pellets here that we can use for an example. These are not the actual sponge here, but
Bring it closer.
okay.
So we want to bring this
Yes,
here.
yeah.
You
So
feeling
we're gonna
that
do
good
this,
about that?
We have over 100 of them in the sponge here, so when we drop these in, they rapidly expand inside when they're touching blood or exudate, and they're actually going to compress the bleed and stop the bleed.
So you saw
at
a
the
few
source.
here. If you had 50 of them in there, it would soak up
Yes.
and it would push everything
Yes. The nice thing about these gauze is because it doesn't have a hemostatic agent, it doesn't matter if there's blood thinners in the blood or if the person has a blood condition or if they've been bleeding too long, all those things that keep the other gauzes from working. when
So
they're
it's just
applied
going to
a
push,
wound.
it's going to provide its own pressure.
Yeah.
Now,
so let's say there's a big giant open gash. This could be applied, and if there was some sort of cover over it, it would actually impress down into the wound, and it would stop the bleeding.
so what you get out of that is you get that same kind of thing. Now I know that
No manual pressure.
no manual pressure on that, so you could, for instance, in some instances where you might, with training, use that to pack a wound if you had to, though of course we talk about it being an external use
Right,
item.
but it's an expanding gauze, so when it hits liquid, it's going to expand.
When it hit liquid, it's going to expand. All right, cool. Now, I
So-
want to talk about this.
Yes.
This is awesome.
Yes.
Because if you've got a pressure wound and you've got to maintain pressure for 3 to
Yes.
5 minutes to stop bleeding, and you've got more wounded than one, you're in trouble.
You're in trouble.
But this helps with that.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
This is a RevMedics Air Wrap device. This is a compression device. Everybody's already using an ACE wrap or some other compression device,
Yeah.
but what they only do is they constrict around the extremity. They don't apply a directional pressure. So if I'm using any Quick Clot, any Celox, any Curlex, any of the gauzes that are out there, even just the H&H compression gauze, I have multiple wounds or multiple casualties, or I'm self-aiding. Wrap, this is going to simulate here, I'll simulate a leg. It comes with a little inflatable bladder.
And what you see, what he's doing is he gets into there. What you see at the very inside of this is it has this bladder. You put the bladder where the pressure needs to be
Yes.
and then wrap around it.
Yes.
And then you inflate.
The bladder cannot come out, it is actually attached to the wrap.
Right.
Okay? So then I'm going to inflate this very quickly. There's an indicator that's going to pop, it's done. So this now is the equivalent of two-handed pressure from an average sized person directly on a wound, which means that I'm free to do something else.
So now I can go
I'm
do
free
something
to,
else.
to treat multiple wounds, multiple patients, and maybe in a couple minutes I treated 5 guys. And they all using Quick
Wow.
Clot, no 3 to 5 minute compression manually, so
Now, to me, that would seem to make sense. Maybe not in your individual first aid kit that's on your person, but in your trunk kit, in your office kit, have
Well,
several of these.
we would definitely want to advocate it for your individual first aid
Okay,
kit.
all right.
Because if you have to first aid, generally going to be in a situation where you need to go do something. The initial compression from the other gauzes that are out there is initial compression.
Right.
But then you still have to get out or get to trauma care, and if
gotta
there's
keep
you or
compression.
somebody else, or you're fighting,
So you're telling me I need a bigger first aid kit is what you're telling me.
possibly a little bit bigger, but we take care of that. So that's a fantastic product. Actually was developed in the U.S. Army ISR research that's done on this is with QuikClot, and it's the data is outstanding.
Excellent.
Saving up on a large wound up to 500 milliliters of blood.
I'm also really excited. I want to talk about this tourniquet, and the reason is whether you carry a SWAT tee or you carry a soft tee or you carry a cat tee, you got to have trainers.
Right.
And because they're a one-use item.
Right.
But this isn't.
This is not a one-use item.
Tell
no.
me about it.
This is a RevMedix TX series tourniquet. This is the TX2 2-inch tourniquet. It looks a lot like a familiar item because it's based off a heavy-duty snowboarding or ski buckle that you've seen and used. They can go through all sorts of beatings, and they can go through cold weather and have no problems.
Awesome.
This tourniquet is designed specifically for one-handed use.
Gotta be.
So it comes with a convenient bite strap, so that when I'm applying this to myself, whether I don't have an arm or it's broken or it's trapped, I don't have to spin the tourniquet around. I can bite it, tighten it down, and then even if my fingers are broken, I can still ratchet the tourniquet down one-handed. It can
One-handed.
be adjusted and loosened, and it can be used over and over and over again, which means that you don't need a training tourniquet. You can just
And
use
you train
this.
with the one you use.
Train with the one you use over and over and over, put it back in your kit.
Nice.
If you use the other training tourniquets, they're actually the normal tourniquets. They actually are one-time use, like you said.
One-time use items.
and it can degrade the tourniquet.
And
so
now-
$39.95 is the MSRP for these, and they can collapse.
Now, this helpful because
Yeah.
this is pretty beefy.
Yes.
And so getting it in your kit might be a little bit difficult, but you make it in a belt.
We have a belt. It is pending release here, just with some FDA clearances coming up, but the prototypes and actually the production is done. This one's awesome in Cryptek. It is a belt, this one here with Austria Alpine buckle, where you're already going to be wearing a belt, and you've got a tourniquet built into it.
That's awesome because then
Hunters, hikers,
well, anybody, EDC, if you wear a shirt out like I tend to, you
Yep.
got that belt there, nobody's going to see it anyways,
Absolutely.
and it gets one thing out of your kit
Yes.
and just onto your person.
Yep.
So this stuff is great, man. I can't tell you enough again. Aspers, if you are going to carry a firearm, if you're anticipating problems, you need emergency medical care on your person because when when the feces hits the oscillator,
Yeah.
it does so now and you're on your own.
Yes.
And this is the kind of gear that will help you. We're going to put links in there where you can get this stuff as it comes available, and gosh darn it, I got to spend some money on some new kit. Michael,
yeah, awesome.
thanks, man.
Thanks.